Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is a little bit different, and you are in for a treat. I was recently approached by my friend, my mentor, my colleague, Ange de Lumière, and she asked me if I would be willing to collaborate with her. So every few weeks, the two of us are going to get together and do episodes together. She has her own podcast. I have this podcast. And we thought that each other, we could bring something special to each other's platforms. So this is episode 1 that we have just recorded, Biz Chats. And in this episode, we are talking about the link between body image and business. Now, if you are an entrepreneur, this is going to be super valuable for you, I should say. If you do not have a business, I still share 3 tips, 3 sort of key resources that you can tap into to begin this sort of healing your body image journey. Okay, so I hope that you enjoy this episode. Like I said, it's different. I think it's really good. Ange was also an earlier guest on this podcast last year. So I will put the link to her original episode in the show notes, as well as links to her Facebook group and her podcast as well, so that you can jump on over and check her out. I hope that you enjoy this. Here it is. My name is Katie Allen, and this is Self Love Ignited. Let's get to it.
We are recording today, Katie and I, a completely different type of episode. And it's going to be an episode about business and laughter. We just had a good giggle before we started. Because sometimes, and this is also going to be on Katie's podcast, because Katie is a podcaster as well. And in a minute, I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. Maybe she'll do the same so that her audience gets to know me, because I'm like this voice popping up, or actually this face as well, because we were having the conversation about the fact that it's 7:00. It's actually 7:07 right now. In the UK, it's 4 p.m. in Australia. And so I'm in my pajamas because I just didn't have time to get dressed for this episode. And then she said, "Can you do a video?" And I said, "Let's just do it. Who cares?" I'm kind of classy in my pajamas, and let's go with it. So let me introduce our new business chat with Katie and Ange. So Katie, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about your business, and then maybe I'll do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Thank you for the lovely introduction, and thank you for being willing to jump on video in your pajamas. Your pajamas are much classier than my pajamas, so you look fabulous. So my name is Katie. I am a health and life coach. I also do EFT and meditation and all sorts of things. And essentially what I do is I help women entrepreneurs feel great about themselves, feel great in their bodies, so that they can show up and create the business that they dream of. And it's so fitting that we are doing this episode today on business and body image, because it's kind of exactly what I do. It is at the heart of everything that I do. And we're going to get into sort of the details of that a little bit, I think. But so I help people feel really good about themselves, feel good about what they look like, so that they can show up and do videos, perhaps in their pajamas or not, so that they can do photo shoots, so that they can put selfies online, so that they can connect with their audience in a really authentic way. Because when you have an online business, you need to do that. Your people need to see you. And if you don't feel great about yourself, you usually don't show your face, and then your people don't see you, and then your business can't grow, and it's a whole thing. So anyway, so that is what I do. So Aj, even though this is also for your podcast and you introduced us already, why don't you introduce yourself and your business as well, so that everybody listening has a good idea of both of us.
Yeah, thank you. And so I don't think we had said yet that our episode was going to be about business and body image. So thank you for saying that. Now it's all clear. I'm going to start first by saying why this is so important to me as a person, even before being a business owner, because I have always had a very bad relationship with cameras. in all sense of the world. And it's probably started when I was in my teens, when pictures taken of me started to look not the way I wanted them to look. This was also linked to the fact that I was, and looking back, I don't even think I was, this is the crazy part. But I was stamped as overweight. Let's put this in context. I was brought up and I lived in Paris back then, which is the capital of fashion, and where every woman, no, maybe not all of them, but most women thrive to be very thin, very elegant, and constantly comparing themselves to each other. All that highly encouraged by magazines, and so I lived in that. And I had a grandmother. I can see her picture here on my desk. She's up there, and I'm like, hello, but not hello as well. Who the first thing she used to say when I walked through her apartment was to comment on my weight. So she had apparently a very good eye to see if I had put on weight or lost weight. And that was the first topic. It's not even a conversation. It was a statement. Oh, you put on weight. And if I did, she would kind of sermon me and say, be careful, you're going to lose your boyfriend or whatever it is, like really, really helpful comments like that. And okay, so I'm going to go a little bit more personal as well. I had a sister who had a completely different body image than me, and body shape, more importantly. So in this color me beautiful kind of thing, which I don't completely, agree with, but they have some truth in it. It can help to know your body shape, to know what fits you and what makes you look good. She had more like a boyish kind of body shape. So she had narrow hips, she had small breasts, and she had a fairly thin frame. Whereas I was a full hourglass from the moments that the hormones kicked in. So, of course, every time I compared myself to her, I could not win. So I had these really layers of unhelpful beliefs about my body, which I started to hate. And of course, it wasn't helped by the fact that my mum put me on a diet when I was 12. After my family doctor decided that I had a risk of being obese. So it's just a risk, but let's just nip it in the bud. And I think they were coming from the best of intents, but it was incredibly damaging. So in the family, I was the only one of the 3 kids, because I had 2 siblings, that had to have their sweets counted and measured and monitored, and cake and everything else, where I could see my brother and sister pig out. I was conscious that I had to be careful around food, that food wasn't my friend from very early on. And to compound this, we'll get to the business part in a minute, because I know this is more my backstory, but that's why I'm so passionate about what you do. And I know how important this body image thing is, because it's been with me almost my entire life. Mm-hmm. So I was also convinced I was the ugliest person on earth from very young, because I wore very thick glasses when I was a kid. I started wearing glasses when I was 2. And also I was a misfit. And looking back, I realized it's because I'm very 90% sure I'm autistic. I have 4 autistic children, and usually, there's no smoke without fire. So it's almost sure I'm autistic. And so I was awkward socially as a kid. Mm-hmm. I never fit in. People didn't want to be with me, etc. So it all compounded into me feeling really awkward about myself. And this wasn't so much of an issue when I had a job, because first of all, I was hired more for my brains than my looks, at least in the job that I did. I was an international business lawyer. I'd done really well in school. At least that was one thing where I excelled, if I put my attention to it. But then when I started my business, first I was not online. So I did in-person things, and even though it was important to have at least 1 or 2 good pictures, and I did have a photo shoot, my first photo shoot, and we might talk a little bit about that, but I don't want this episode to be about me. Then I had to be the face of my business. And to be frank, it was in 2015 when I had to take my business online because I started homeschooling my kids. I would not I would not want to be in front of a camera. It
Mhm.
was every time it was like so stressful. As if I was taking an exam, if I compare it, you know. And the reason is there were so many pictures that were taken of me by amateur photographers that were atrocious, like wrong angle, wrong light, double chin, you name it. Um, and I don't have particularly nice looking teeth. So as well, when people took pictures of me smiling, that wasn't so good. And that's because I took antibiotics when I was a kid constantly. I was constantly ill. And so you may or may not know that it has an impact on the color of your teeth.
Mhm.
Um, right. So that's where I come from. And I had to overcome this, right? Because as you said rightly, if you're not visible online, especially as a human being, people will buy from you because, well, I would say, and I'd love to have your take on this. I would say it's because they don't feel they can trust you because they don't know you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's this crucial element of being visible, but also being comfortable being visible. Because if you're visible but you look like you're a rabbit caught in the headlights, that's not going to help much either, is it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's where I come from with this passion. And we've worked together for now, what? Is it 2 years or a year and a half?
Uh,
Around.
it'll be 2 years in January. So yeah,
Okay.
almost 2 years. Almost 2 years.
And when I started working with you, I had already overcome a lot of my hurdles, but I had overcome them almost in the wrong way because I overcame them by losing weight. So I was better or more comfortable in front of the camera because I was closer to the weight that I was happy with. But for
Mhm.
some reason, my body decided obstinately not to want to lose weight for the photo shoot I planned in October last year for my book launch. And so
Mhm.
I was faced with the decision of postponing indefinitely until I was the way I wanted to be, or just biting the bullet and just saying, okay, I'm going to show up exactly as I am. And that's where you helped, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And there's something really powerful about that decision that you made. I'm going to show up as I am. And we can talk about that too, because like you said that you think you had maybe gone about it the wrong way. Like you'd already done a lot of work on your body image and you'd come a long way, but that maybe you'd gone about it the wrong way through, just pursuing weight loss and just trying to become a
Yeah.
smaller size. And I want to say, you and I have had many discussions about this, that I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with wanting to lose weight. Everybody has their own reasons. We all have our own bodies, whether it's for, health reason, comfort reason, whatever it happens to be. If you want to lose weight, there's totally a way that you can do that in a loving, kind, compassionate, caring way for yourself. But if you hope to feel better about yourself simply by making yourself smaller, it'll work temporarily. But body image isn't about what you look like. Body image is about what you think you look like and how you judge yourself. So changing your body does not inherently change your body image. Those are separate things
Yeah.
that need to be
And
addressed.
interestingly enough, I think I have body dysmorphia for sure. And when I went for that photo shoot, I thought I would look like an elephant. And when she showed me the pictures and she didn't Photoshop them, and I was like, this can't be me. You
Uh-huh.
must have Photoshopped them. And she said, no, not at all. And I was like, oh, we still have work to do here.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I didn't get into any of my sort of backstory before, but I mean, I grew up being the fat kid. I was overweight from the time I was, a toddler. Went on my first diet. I think it was Weight Watchers. I would have been 10 or 11-ish, sort of roughly the same age as you. Was constantly ashamed. I was bullied. I hated the way I looked. I held myself back in every aspect of my life because I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt ugly. Um, Like, so, we're not having this conversation only because this is your backstory, right? But like, this is my backstory too. Um,
Oh, it's important. I want to hear it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Um, and I think a lot of people look at me now and they think, how could you have body image stuff? How could you have these things? And I'm like, I still do to this day. To this day, you and I were having a chat last week, I think it was, maybe the week before, and we were talking about this exact thing, right? Like, I still see myself as a lot bigger. So whether it's body dysmorphia, I know that is like a technical thing that can be diagnosed. I'm not diagnosed, but I definitely see my body as very different than it actually is now. Still, like my height, I don't really care. Numbers don't bother me. So my highest weight, I'm 5'6". My highest weight was 221 pounds, which is roughly 100 kilos. Um, and I think I'm like 145 pounds or something right now, 150 pounds. Like there's a big difference in the actual number on the scale and in my clothing measurements and stuff. But in my head, I still see myself as that bigger person. Um, so I'm still working through my own stuff as well. But the beautiful thing about doing this work is that, the voice doesn't necessarily go away. This inner voice of, you're too fat, what's wrong with you? You should be ashamed, you should hide your body. But it's almost like it just becomes um, quieter. Like you sort of learn to parent yourself through it. And instead of it being like the loudest voice in the room, this big bully that is like domineering and taking over, it's now just this sort of annoying background chatter where you can go, oh, that's cute. Thanks for your input. Get in the back seat. You're not driving.
Right. So this brings me actually, I don't know why. This brings me to when before we did this episode, we said, oh no, how could you tie this to intuition? And I said, I don't really care about talking about intuition in this episode because I really want to talk about business. But I just had a thought. And the thought is, if you feel awful about yourself and you come on camera and you're brave enough to do it, that's great. Please do it. But
Yeah,
people will know. People
yeah,
will feel it because their intuition will pick up on the vibe, which is
yeah,
why it's important not just to show up, but to show up happy, merry, and loving yourself. Because the more you love yourself, the more people will want to love to work with you. Sorry,
yeah.
will want to work with you. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all energy, right?
Mm.
Everything is energy, and people use different terms. Whatever, I just use the term energy because it's easier. Everything is energy. There's vibes. People look at you and they can tell, right? You call it intuition. It's the same thing. It's just picking
They,
up on the energy. It's
yeah,
picking up.
they won't necessarily know that you have body issues and that's why you show up the way you do. They'll know that you're hiding something, that something's off, and that will put them off.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that I can give you my guarantee that's what's going to happen. So
yeah,
sometimes I wonder why there's not more body confidence coach for business owners, because honestly it's got to be one of the most important thing. And I will say, not that I want to be sexist, mostly for women, because even though I know the movement has also affected men, this whole, you know, objectifying women has had some really damaging consequences on us.
yeah. It absolutely has. It absolutely has. Because as women, we are groomed from birth, basically. From, right from the beginning, we are groomed, we are taught, we're conditioned that you have to look a certain way in order to be worthy of love. You have to fit society's ideals if you ever want to be successful. And like, this isn't necessarily stuff that's communicated directly. Unfortunately for you, you had, your grandmother who did communicate a lot of this directly to you. But a lot of people like myself, this was never told to me, but it's what I absorbed every day through media, right? Through watching TV, through magazines. It's everywhere. It's, you have to look this way to be worthy of love, to ever be successful. If you ever want, if you ever want to fall in love and get married, and you ever want to do this, you ever want to, whatever your thing is, you have to look the part. And if you don't, you're not going to make it. You have to look a certain way. And I think for men, it's there a little bit, but not nearly as much, right? Like
Mm.
for women, it's like our looks are the most important thing, which is just totally not true, but it's what we're told.
Yeah, and as I was listening to you, I think my being a mother has really taught me so much about all that stuff. Because when you're a kid, you receive it and you don't have a filter and you go straight in. And when I say it was my grandmother, it was also my mum. Because when and my mother-in-law as well, when I had my second child, who had a very different body type than their brother, um, because naturally, baby girls have more fat than baby boys. Naturally, I'm not saying it's universal, but it's very few. And so they had really like very, very fat little chubby legs. Was my first one was kind of a bit more like, yeah, skinny. And the first thing that my mother-in-law said when she saw her second grandchild was, "Oh, he's going to be obese." And I was
Yeah.
like, you shut your mouth right now. I'm not
Yeah.
allowing you to say that again.
Yeah.
I was so shocked. So what it's shown me is that adults project their own stuff onto kids, and because we don't have a filter, because our brain is not mature actually until we're 22, but all that stuff goes straight in. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. It really does.
And then that same child went to visit my mother 2 weeks ago, and
Mhm.
she actually made a comment that they had a lot of reserves. And so they came back and said to me, well, my grandmother like actually told me I was fat
Yeah.
in covert ways. And she is very overweight.
Mhm.
It's her problem. Why is she projecting it again onto someone else? This has got to stop.
It's systemic and it's generational, right? And if somebody's willing to say that to someone else, especially a family member, you better believe they're saying it to themselves and they're 100 times harsher on the inside. Right? So it's
Yeah.
directed at self first and then it goes out. But conversations like this and you raising your children in such a different way than you were raised, and that's a I feel like that's a whole other conversation. Um, but we've obviously I know
If we
you and
manage to tie this into business, I think we're geniuses. But
I know. I know. So it's quite a tangent, but this is what you and I do, right? We just go on tangents.
yeah,
But like, I mean,
yeah,
I've been to your home, I've met your kids, and they're beautiful. But you raised your children so much different than you were raised. It's like you experienced your childhood and you went never again,
yeah.
never again.
It
I mean, you
stops with
lived your.
me.
It stops with me. It stops with me, and that's how we create change. And then conversations like this to help other people say it stops with me. And if we can literally get people to say it stops with me, then that is an opportunity for us to say, then what are we starting?
Yeah.
Right? What are
So
we
this
starting?
this actually brings me beautifully into the question I wanted to ask you, because we've talked about, it happens, we have body issues. It usually starts very young. How do you start changing that, Katie? Because that's your zone of genius. And I want to know if we could give the first 3 steps for our audience who maybe have body issues, whether it's because they think they're too heavy or that they don't like their nose or their hair or whatever. Because for years I hated my hair as well, because everybody commented on it, and we could do a whole episode on that as well. Not that it links to business, but it does in a way, because it's so curly. And I was a lawyer. There was no one with curly hair around me, and it always felt that it was not professional. Why can't curly hair be professional? That's a very big topic, actually.
I, I was going to say that's a whole other thing, and we're going to get into like
Maybe.
racism in business with
I
that,
think
right?
so.
Because
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And maybe that's going to
yeah,
be our next topic, racism in business. That is so important, and it's a topic very dear to my heart. But anyway,
yeah.
we want to leave the listeners with 3 first steps, or 3 tips, or 1 tip and 1 thing that they can do to get started to feel more comfortable on camera, or start their journey of
Yeah.
releasing self-hate.
I love this because you didn't tell me you were going to ask me this. So now my brain's going, ooh, what are we going to do? Because there is no one size, right? There's no one size fits all. There's no magic pill. There's no magic thing. But there are definitely some common threads that I see between everybody, and these are things that I did myself years ago on my own journey, and then I encourage others to do. So if I had to say, there were a few things. Number one, surround yourself with people who are on a similar journey, because it is so easy when you're just in life. Unfortunately, still in a lot of spaces, it's very common for women still to talk badly about themselves, talk about the new diet that they're on, talk about the thing that they hate about their body, talk about their Botox that they're getting, talk whatever that is. And I think we all have friends and we've all been around people like that. But if you are at a place where you're like, I want to change, it stops with me. I want to change. I want to do better. Find other people who are doing better. Find other people who want to do this journey with you. And even if that's just one friend, right? One person or
this is brilliant. And I almost want to leave the listeners with just that one, because if they get too much, it's more difficult. But it's
you
hard
cannot. No,
though.
I need one more. I need one more. You can't
Okay.
cut me
Before you get to the second one, then can I just say this can be really, really hard, because
Yes.
it might mean that you actually lose your friends. It's the same as when you quit smoking. It was so hard. Or when you quit drinking, and you're obviously you hang out with people who do the same thing as you,
Yeah.
and then it's so hard because you're like, oh, I might lose my whole social
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah. And our brain likes to catastrophize, right? Our brain likes to look at it and go, we're gonna lose everybody. Seriously, that's what our brains do, right? Because they're trying to protect us. Like that's what your brain, that's what that inner voice is, because it's trying to protect you. So the chances of you losing absolutely everybody in your life are slim to none. Will you put some people off? Quite possibly. Will you lose a couple of friends? Maybe. But what it also does is it really shows you the people who have your back no matter what. The people who are with ups and downs, right? Like it's polarizing, and polarizing in the people that are not with you and the people who stand firm with you. So it's actually a really beautiful thing. It can still be scary for sure. But it's a really beautiful thing. And
This ties with business, because in business, you don't want to be vanilla. You don't want to be bland. You want to stand out. You want to be exactly you. And that's going to attract to you your ideal clients and repel others. So this is a lesson we can take from our private life and take straight into business. Be more brave about who you are, what you want, your needs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And along this line too, I want to just remind everybody that courage comes before confidence. You cannot feel confident if you are not courageous. You have to be brave first. You have to be brave with your life. You have to be brave with your business. Like you have to dig down. You might take digging down deep and like finding it, but we all have it. We have that within us. And whatever that looks like, right? If that's like posting a selfie, if that is having a photo shoot done. I love that you had that photo shoot done. Beautiful photos from that. If that is doing your first Facebook Live, if that's recording a video and putting it on YouTube, if like I don't care what it is, doing your first webinar, you're not going to feel confident at the beginning. You have to be courageous first, and that encompasses body image. And the second thing that I want to say, as far as like a step or something that listeners can do, like something, because I know we all want to walk away and have something really tangible that we can like actually do. Find your people, right? Remember that you have to be courageous before you get confident. Confidence is not step one. Curiosity. Curiosity. Yes, this is a cornerstone in my personal life. It's a cornerstone in my coaching. I can't tell you, well, you can probably tell me how many times I've told you to be curious about something. Almost every session with a client, we'll talk about curiosity and how we can look at things from a different way. Because what happens with body image when we're really struggling is that we get in a cycle of self-judgment. That's essentially what it is, right? We are judging ourselves, we're judging our bodies, we're labeling something about us as bad, wrong, not enough, ugly, fill in the blank of your particular judgment. We all have them. Um, and when we judge ourselves, then what happens is when we have this level of awareness, and if you're listening to this or watching this, you likely have that level of awareness where you're noticing it and you're going like, wow, I'm being really harsh. I'm being really mean. Where did this come from? And then we go, why am I being so nasty? What's wrong with me? Why am I judging myself so harshly? And then we continue to judge ourselves. We judge ourselves for judging ourselves. And it's like this horrible feedback loop where we just get stuck in. And for so many people, that's normal and they don't even see it. But to break yourself out of that loop, curiosity, and curiosity just means asking questions. Where did this thought come from? Isn't it interesting that I'm jumping to this conclusion? I wonder what I'm trying to make this mean. What am I trying to believe? Like what goal am I trying to get to with this thought? My subconscious is telling me that I'm ugly. What does it want for me? Like seriously, just asking questions, going, isn't it interesting that this is happening? What could this mean? Where could this come from? That simple thing, curiosity, opening your mind, breaks you out of the judgment cycle, and it opens you to a whole new world of possibilities, which include love, kindness, self-compassion, self-respect, all that stuff. But we're not even talking about that yet. We're just talking about curiosity. And that is an amazing step for absolutely everybody to start with.
Yeah, I think you really inspired me with that from the word go. And I will say I think I want to keep this episode not too long. So I'll give you a chance to talk again, but I want to say I think we live in a very judgmental society, and in the online world in particular, in the business online world, there's so much judgment as well. So as you rightly say, we have to be curious. Why are we judging others? Why are we judging ourselves? Why are we comparing ourselves to others? Is it because we're afraid of judgment? So if we would judge first, then like we have a win because we've done it before the other ones, so we're ahead of the game. I don't know. So judgment is definitely something we need to ditch. Yeah, your dog agrees. I think that's a beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he agrees.
we'll say that. Okay, so yeah, I think this for a first episode, I think this already has a lot of juice for our listeners.
Yeah.
Do you want to finish?
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
To help us wrap this up?
Yeah.
In your own experience, in your own business, since you've started consciously, intentionally working on your body image and learning to feel better about yourself, what have you noticed shift in your own business, in your experience in business? What's different for you now than it was before?
So I don't think my body image is massively better, but I'm not allowing it to come in the way of what I'm supposed to do, because in a way, I'm do you say getting ahead of myself, in the sense that I understand that my audience doesn't really care. They care more about what I have to say, what I have to bring to the table, and what I can help them with, and that's more important. So in a way, it helps me to elevate myself above my little, limitations, beliefs, idiosyncrasies, and look into the bigger picture. So the bigger picture, which is my thing, really helps me to get over myself. Yeah, basically, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like I sort of said at the beginning, instead of it being like in the front seat, the driver, the loudest voice, the leading energy, the leading thing, it's still with you. You still have it. It's just in the back because other things are more important.
Yeah, it's like I reduced the volume.
Yeah.
Before, it was like this completely domineering energy and voice, and now it's just something in the background that I noticed, and I was like, oh, okay, it's still there. It's okay. It's not a big deal. And I do want my listeners to know that, and people who follow me, because I can probably come across as someone confident who doesn't have body issues, because I've been doing this work for 7 years now. 7 years, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And I started long before that, because the first photo shoot I had was in 2009 when I was writing a book about how to slim without dieting, because I was a clinical hypnotherapist back then.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, I think I was going about it the wrong way. It was only first level, and now I'm doing second level, because I was waiting for the outcome of losing weight to be more confident. And it's actually the other way around, that you need to do it. So now I see, I thought it was a failure on my part to have to revisit this, but now I see with different eyes that it was level 1 and now I'm level 2, and maybe one day I'll play at level 3. This is a game. There's nothing serious going on here. Unless you have, an eating disorder, in which case I would really invite that listener or those listeners to go and seek some help as soon as they can, because that's, that can impact your health. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
My question for you, your dog is really loving this conversation. Maybe he's just saying we need to wrap this up, and that's fine.
We have dogs all around us, and all the neighborhood dogs, they're all having a chat. They're just having a conversation all at the same time. So
yeah, it's like in Lady and the Tramp. We're having this moment where the dogs are joining in.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
So what would you say if it is the biggest transformation you've seen from working with women in business through your work, obviously?
Ooh. Honestly, I've had a lot of people come to me and just say, everybody uses different words, but the words balance and freedom come up a lot.
Okay.
Balance and freedom. Because this can be so confining, and it can make you feel like you just need to be small. And then we try to make ourselves smaller, and we shrink, and we try to be invisible. And, having people come and just say, I feel like I can just be myself. I feel like I'm free to exist. I'm allowed to exist now. I'm allowed to exist as myself. I'm allowed to exist as a business owner. I'm allowed to exist online. And it's not that anybody else told me I couldn't. It's that I gave myself permission to exist, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. Yeah, it's just massive. I've had people who could never do a Facebook Live, could never record themselves on video, started up a YouTube channel, no problem. I've had people, who were just terrified of posting selfies. They had their whole Instagram profile was just words and stock images, and suddenly they appeared and people started going, oh, that's who you are. It's so nice to see your face. And beautiful conversations started happening. And, so everybody's journey is unique, but without fail, working on your body image is going to improve your personal life, how you feel about yourself, and your business and your clients and your everything.
Yeah, because at the center of your business is you.
Yeah.
And I want to finish with this, if you're okay to finish at this point, with saying that the craziest thing is that you're in a cage that you put yourself in, and you've locked yourself in, and you have the key. That's the image that I've just been given. So grab that key. Katie can help you find that key. That's okay too, to reach for help. And this can have a massive impact even on your revenues and your success. So don't delay. How
you do one thing is how you do everything. So how you feel about your business, how you feel about yourself, rather, is how you feel about your business. How you feel, how you treat yourself is how you treat your business. How you deal with your own self-image is how you deal with your health. It's how you deal with your money. It's how you deal with everything. So, and yeah, you are the center of your business. So when you start focusing on you, everything shifts for the better. Every time.
All right. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining me on this new adventure, this co-adventure. It's I hope that the listeners have enjoyed the conversation as well. It's going to be a very different type of episode. I think we'll talk offline about our next topic, I quite like the idea of visibility because it's kind of a follow-up on this body image thing. But I also want to invite our listeners to go into our respective Facebook groups. You have a community, I have a community. So why don't you mention what your community is? Then I'll mention mine. And we'll have a post up with whatever questions people want us to talk about, business related.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what's the name of your community, Katie?
So my Facebook group, it's called the Heart Space Community, and it really is a space for entrepreneurs to come in and connect from the heart. And you are welcome to come in there, practice being visible, practice showing your face. It's a great way to connect with others. I would also say, even though you didn't ask me, but I'm just going to plug it anyways. Instagram. I'm really active on Instagram. I do a lot of mini tapping videos on Instagram. I like to post reels on Instagram. It's sort of my favorite platform. I'd say it's where I'm most active. So if you're on Instagram, come find me as well. So Facebook group and Instagram.
And what's your handle on Instagram?
My name, so it's Katie Allen Coaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my group is called the Intuitive Revolution for Ambitious Entrepreneurs with Ange. And I'm mostly on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram, but I'm on LinkedIn at Ange de Lumière. So if anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn, I'm happy to do that as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Katie, for accepting my invitation to do this special episode, which will come on my podcast every 5 weeks, and well, I suppose on yours as well, Katie. Do you want to talk about the name of your podcast, and then I'll mention mine, just because we're going to be on each other's podcasts, so people can find us?
Absolutely. So my podcast is called Self-Love Ignited, and it is conversations just like this one. So I do a lot of interview episodes and solo episodes. It's a nice mixture of two, and now these episodes as well. So it's going to be some extra little sort of sprinkles thrown in there, some extra love sprinkles. But it is all about helping you learn to create a loving, kind, compassionate relationship with yourself and with your body. So yeah, Self-Love Ignited. It's on YouTube and all of the normal podcast platforms.
Right. And mine is called the Intuition Revolution in Business. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Ange. Bye.
Thank you, Katie.